So the next 3 sessions are on academic and learning collaboration. The first session is on the LMS and beyond Sakai, and we'll be listening to Wilma Hodges of Longsight, Inc. Wilma's asked that we keep our questions to the end, so please put them in the chat. An introduction. Wilma is the Director of Training and E-Learning Initiatives at Longsight. She has more than 20 years of experience in faculty training, LMS administration, online pedagogy, instructional design, online course and program development, teaching, and technical writing. Wilma has been involved with the Sakai project since 2009 and currently serves as the Sakai Community Coordinator. Go for it, Wilma.
Okay, so we have a 20-minute time period, so I'm going to save the questions to the end. I'll try to get through my slides quickly, though, so that if we do have any questions, we'll have a little bit of time to talk about them. So Sakai, for those of you who aren't familiar with the platform, is an open source LMS, as are all the other Apereo projects, 100% open source, which differentiates it in the LMS market. And it is built by educators for educators. We are actually a leader in the market. This is some market data that we've licensed recently, and it's showing kind of the trend over the last couple of years of some very high rankings in the market data that was collected. And it shows us as a leader in the quadrant, and this is based on reviews from users of the platform. So I did want to mention just a couple quick announcements. For those of you interested in attending the Sakai community meeting, typically we have those at the end of Open Apereo. There's like a half a day or a day and a half of community meetings following the conference. But since we're all sort of split up in different places, and since the conference schedule was flattened a bit to fit into a time that works better for more time zones, we decided to not have the community meeting in conjunction with Open Apereo, but rather have it a few weeks later in conjunction with our Sakai PMC quarterly meeting. So that's going to be in July, and it's going to be July 24th. It's a 4-hour block because we're going to do the PMC meeting during the first hour and then have a couple of hours for open discussion on different breakout topics that community members can suggest. So there is a draft agenda there at that bit.ly link, and I'll upload these slides later after the presentation to the discussion area for Sakai in the conference site. So if you want to go grab that link from there, you can. And feel free, if you are planning to attend, to add some agenda topics for us to talk about. Another quick announcement is we are accepting PMC nominations. Anyone can be nominated, any active community members can be nominated to serve on the PMC. You can even self-nominate if you would like. And you can send those nominations to Matt Jones. He's collecting them and will be coordinating the voting for the PMC, any new members to be added. We can take nominations at any time, but we are planning to do the voting, this month. So if you have someone in mind that you would like to nominate, please go ahead and do so in the next week or so. So now I'd like to move on to a little bit about the current release of Sakai. So we'll talk a little bit about Sakai 20. It was released April 29th. So the latest version right now is the 20.0 release. And you can find out more detailed information about that on Confluence, the release notes there. But just in brief, there were 1,649 JIRA issues. And 199 of those were features. So there's quite a lot of new features in Sakai 20, and we are targeting the .1 release for those of you waiting anxiously to see when that's going to come out so you can plan your upgrade. We are targeting that for the end of June. So this is just kind of a visualization of those fixes. They were in a number of different areas, but this graph is broken up by component. So you can kind of see some of the different tools and areas of Sakai that have been impacted in this particular release. And then this is the graph showing new component or new features, again, sorted by component. So you can see that, for example, tests and quizzes got quite a lot of feature requests in there, as did Gradebook, assignments, and a few others. All right, so I'm going to go through some feature highlights, and I'm going to go through here pretty quickly because I want to make sure that we use our time well. And some of you may have seen some of this before. I've done prior webinars right prior to the release of Sakai 20 on some of the features. So this is not all of 199 features by any means, but hopefully some of the bigger, more notable ones. So we do have a new default gateway. And this little video shows you kind of what is included. It's the default pages that come up with a vanilla installation. So this is not seen by a lot of institutions because pretty much every institution has their own gateway already customized. But for a new adopter or someone just installing Sakai out of the box, it gives it a little more modern experience. So, all these pages have been updated here. The avatar, the default avatar, if there's no photo, has been replaced by initials. So you'll see that throughout Sakai and in different tools, anywhere the avatar would show. We've added search up in the portal nav at the top. So you'll see that there's a little magnifying glass icon. If you click on that, you'll get a box to begin searching. So, so that is up in the top nav. And the bullhorns, for those of you who may remember them in prior versions, there were social and academic ones, and they each had their own icon. They've been collapsed into one icon now because users didn't really seem to differentiate between the different types. So they're all under just one bullhorn icon. There is a name pronunciation feature in the profile, so it allows people to record the proper pronunciation of their name. I understand some institutions are actually using those recordings to help them during commencement ceremonies so that they make sure to pronounce students correctly when they give out the diplomas. In the user tool, this is an admin tool. This has been updated a little bit. It just gives you a little more guidance as you're typing if you're putting in a valid email address or a strong password. In the statistics tool, and this one actually you need to enable a property to see this. So if you have Sakai 20 right now and you're not seeing this tab, you may need to have your system administrator request that property be enabled. But it's a new tab in user activity that gives you more drill down information about what users are doing. So you can select a specific user in the list, someone in the course, and give it a date range, and then it allows you to drill down and you can actually see more information. For example, if they went to a page, you can open up and show more detail and see which page. If they took a quiz, you can see the name of the quiz, the name of the assignment, the forum, whatever the item might be, you can drill down and get more information on that. Students also get their own view of the activity so that they can see at a glance how active they're being in the course. There is the new Auto Groups wizard, and for those of you who attended the Sakai Virtual Conference, you may remember that this was one of our Sakai Garden winners for funding. And this actually was originally intended for 21 because it had missed the code freeze, but it was a sort of a special case that we got it in under the wire because it was very thoroughly designed and tested prior to inclusion, and it provides a really nice interface for creating random groups within a course. So if you do a lot of group work, you might want to check that out. In tests and quizzes, you can now restore deleted assessments really easily right in the UI. That was something that you could do in assignments, but not in tests and quizzes through the UI anyway. You could restore it on the database, but for end users, it was a little bit disconcerting when they delete something that they couldn't retrieve it necessarily without admin intervening in the process. But this allows you to go to the trash tab and recover any deleted items that you might have in there. And it will also tell you which ones are draft assessments and which ones are published ones when they were deleted. So the draft ones are indicated there. Also in tests and quizzes, you can schedule feedback. So if you are displaying feedback to students on certain dates, you can choose to display before a certain date or after a certain date. So you can kind of give it a window instead of just having it available from then forward. And you can also choose to display feedback to students that are scoring at a certain level. So anyone scoring 70% or below would receive the feedback maybe for some additional help. So those are some new feedback options that you have now in tests and quizzes. In the CK editor, and the CK editor you'll find in all tools throughout Sakai, there are several templates now that are available, and these are contributed by you, Dayton, and they're now included by default. So you can pre-format areas of text, and it just makes it a little easier to make your text look attractive in the CK editor without knowing a lot of coding. The Gradebook also has a new section column. If you have multiple sections in a course, you can now differentiate them a little bit easier and see that information right in the frozen part of the screen when you scroll sideways. Also in the Gradebook, you can suggest input. So if you've typed something before for a comment and you go back in to start typing, it will detect the first part and try to match it with the suggested input. So it just speeds up things if you're recycling comments quite a bit. Also in the Gradebook, you can go to full screen, and this is actually true throughout Sakai, not just in the Gradebook, although this was kind of where it started. You'll see this little expand, collapse, full screen icon in the top right. And that allows you to make the content area the full screen. It basically hides all the global nav so that you get all of the real estate for the particular content screen that you're looking at. So that's a nice feature, particularly in the Gradebook where there might be lots of columns and rows that you want to see at once. You can also resize your Gradebook columns, and this is a property, again, that it would need to be turned on. So it's not on by default, but you can drag them around to make them the appropriate size for the data that's in them. And also in Gradebook, you can now message students from the Gradebook. So if you wanted to send a message to all ungraded students or all graded students, it gives you a little text box to type that message and quickly send that communication straight from the grade area. The podcast tool was given a new look. So it was updated a little bit to make it a little more user-friendly. This is the old UI up here, which was kind of a blob of text, and now it's in more of a tabular format, a little bit easier to scan. There is now a to the top link at the bottom. So when you get to the bottom of a page, particularly a long page with lots of scrolling, this is really nice because you can just click on this little arrow and it quickly moves you right back to the top of the screen. So it's one of those little things that can really improve the experience. There is a OneDrive, Google Drive integration now. So this does integrate with Sakai's file picker. Anywhere you would attach a file is where you would get to this. So you can attach items directly from Google or from OneDrive. In Site Info, this is a pretty popular one. There's new date management functionality. So you can bulk edit dates all in one screen. And you can see they're listed out by tool, but you can expand them out and edit those open and closed dates, accept until dates, etc., right from one screen. The Sakai Grader, I saved it to the last because it's one of the headline items. This is the new grading interface in the assignment tool. And again, you may need to enable it depending on if it's been enabled by default on your particular system. But it does give you sort of a document preview view of the student file. You'll see the file name over here, and you would click on it to preview it here in the left-hand pane. If you have a rubric attached, you'll see a little icon there for rubrics. You can click on this, and it pulls up a floating window that you can move around to use the rubric to grade. You have an opportunity to use the Seek editor to enter feedback. You can still do attachments. You can also do a private note. And the student's profile picture, by the way, is also included if there's a photo. This particular demo student only had initials, but if there had been a profile, you would have seen it there.
Wilma, you have about
Yes.
5 questions or even 6 questions. Are you coming to the end?
I'm getting real close.
Okay.
So Sakai 21 is targeted for next year. We're looking at March, April. We do have a design team, codenamed Project Trinity, that's working on the new UI. So we've been working and we've been doing some community focus groups. Maybe you've been a part of some of those. We also just found out recently we've got a $25,000 donation from Dr. Chuck from some of his MOOC proceeds to help with Sakai development. So some of that will definitely go toward the new UI project. I'm not going to show you much, but I thought I would show you a little teaser of what it currently looks like. These are some of the current mock-ups. If you're interested in learning more, you can come to my session tomorrow, which is the Lessons Redesign and New Sakai UI Update, where I'll talk a little more about the UI. That's on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, there's a session that Josh is doing on the roadmap. So you'll hear more about upcoming features in Sakai 21 and later. So that's it. Now let's see if we can get to some of those questions.
We've got just 4 minutes. The first question, which has been semi-answered on the chat, are early adopters running 20.0 in production yet?
Yes, we do have several clients at Longsight that are running 20 right now.
Great. Next question from Neil Caden. Is it any easier to install one's own instance of Sakai than it used to be?
Unfortunately, no, and that is a topic for discussion. We talked about that a little bit on the dev list recently, and it's come up at Sakai Camp and other places, but that's still something that we're working on.
Next question from Elna Van Nykirk. What does the search feature search?
It searches all of the content in the tools that participate in search, and I can't rattle those off the top of my head, but if you email me afterward, I'll be happy to give you a list.
From Tiffany Stahl, is the more information option in the statistics users tool always a single line of information, just the title of a quiz or assignment? If so, why is there a button to expose that information?
That I couldn't answer because I'm not sure. That was contributed from Western University, so they may have a little more insight into why they did it as a button. I believe in some cases you get more than one line, but I don't know if you ever get more than a couple of lines. I haven't tested it thoroughly.
Okay, there are 2 more questions from Fan Lee. That's Louisa. Do students get an email or message in the gradebook?
They get an email. It goes to their email. Same as when you email a user from the tests and quizzes area and things like that.
And then from Tiffany again, if you can't make Semigo show different or specific feedback for students scoring less than a certain percentage, then she's not sure of the value of that option.
A lot of people like to turn off the feedback after a certain window because they maybe don't want it available the same day as the test, for example. So they like to make it available for a week and then have it not be available anymore. So
and skipping to a new person, Terry Smith, can comments be made on the document?
The document in the assignments grader, I am assuming?
I guess so. Maybe Samago.
Well, for 20, there is no annotation in the document preview, but that is something that we're working on for 21.
Okay, and then one last question. From Tiffany, does the batch date editor also allow you to set exceptions in Samago?
No, you'd still have to go to the exceptions to do those one-offs.
You win the question round, Wilma.
All right.
We've run out of time.
Great. Thanks, everybody.